Doing a quick comparison here with the 2000 First Retro Air Jordan 5 in the white, black, fire red colorway versus the 2020 Retro of the same colorway. There's a number of improvements from an overall quality standpoint with this Retro, even though these are in a lot of ways extremely similar to the 1990. There are actually some things fixed on this one, and the big critical change, in my opinion, is the use of leather, which I think is awesome. I'm always for an increase in quality versus using something synthetic, which the originals were synthetic, which is why this one is keeping in line with it in a lot of ways, although there are some details missing on this that this one has. But if you're going to pay $200 or more for a pair of retail price kicks, I'd much rather see at least the improvements made with the quality of materials. Right off the bat, these are substantially heavier than the 2000 Retro. By the way, these did release on 1/3/2000 Y2K, right there when we all thought the world was going to come to an end, if you were around back then, with the ones and zeros age. Flip into the heels, we'll see the improvements in the size of the Nike Air. These are both size 12, by the way, so it is a direct size comparison. The height is identical. I would say that the outer edge is probably just sagging a little bit, but it's probably a little bit lower here than it is here. These are a little more asymmetrical in terms of how they come together, but the overall height is great. As you'll see, the Nike Air embroidery is a little bigger. I personally like this look. I don't have a 1990 pair to compare it to. My guess is this is actually a little closer to the original just because of the thickness of it. This is stitched really well, better than the Jumpman on the tongue, but is of course notably smaller, given that the sizes are the same. The Air Jordan label on the back, though, is right side up, which is incorrect if you're being accurate to the original. This is further down on the tongue and then upside down like the 1990, in case you were of the mind to flip your tongues forward and didn't want them scraping up your legs back in the day. Obviously, these have yellowed. They're not wearable, but the use of synthetic leather I was never impressed with on this pair. That's part of the reason they crease so much, in terms of just the intensity of the creasing, and you see every little fault line on them. Love the shape. I mean, just a super nice bullet-shaped toe. I really think they did a great job overall. Not an awesome, perfect job, but a great job overall with the shape of the 2020 toe. You can barely tell the difference there, and noting that these are barely worn, just a couple times. And then the other thing to point out while this is on this side is the netting. So the netting here is, you'll notice, is actually smaller than the nets on the 2000 pair, which have much larger nets and a smaller panel cut here. That is less accurate than the original. So that was something that grew with all the retros of that era, and this is actually closer to the 1990 cut and shape. So I thought that was a cool improvement as well. So the nets and the label on the back are marked increases or something similar to the original. The Nike Air is probably a little closer. The tongue itself, Jordan brand can't ever leave these freaking tongues alone on fives. So this is super similar to 1990. Really squishy, kind of thin, but comfortable. Not so thin that it hurts. The DMP pack from 2009 and even the 2008 retro of these with the 23 on the side, the tongues are actually stiff and thinly padded and almost hurt a little bit to wear. Like, they're just not very comfortable. The 2006 and 7 retros got this nice thicker, puffier tongue that may be further away from this original 3M that is used here versus Nike's version of the reflective material here. But it is really comfortable, and it does stand up nice and tall on its own without having to pull on it. Embroidery is an improvement, which you would just kind of expect with time, that this would be cleaner, and it just is. You can see the jaggedness of his leg and the fingers being kind of like looking like webs instead of a hand. So that's a cool improvement. For some reason, the lace toggle is a little dark. I don't know why. This is almost like a carmine color. Wish it wasn't that way. It is not really a fire red, but at least it does have the Nike on the wing, and this is just a little brighter in color overall. The flash ability of both of them is about the same. If I can turn that on, you'll see basically equal reflectivity even in a room in daylight. So yeah, I think they did a good job there where they're not like weakening or limiting the flash capability of the reflectivity there. So that's cool. Some other like little detailed differences you can tell on the top of the toes. I guess I'm specifically referring to this area here. This transition is really similar. Stitching goes all the way across here, and it's cut short here. It's impacted and stopped as like a little loop, like a track, as opposed to all the way through the panel on the toe box there. But the mesh where that kind of a neoprene-ish satin material runs right going up into the netting is virtually the same. So, and then the plastic tabs are where they should be. All the lace holes are the same. Really no changes in that regard, kind of common to fives. They got the white triangle correct on the medial, which they did not on the CDP version of this shoe, which is kind of heinous in a lot of ways, let alone the Jumpman on the back and all that. But I did appreciate the 23 on the side because it was kind of like a player edition version, but other than that. And yeah, then the soles, I guess, to wrap things up, both got the Nike on them. They look to be almost identical in size. The E's a little smaller on this. Lettering is just a little bit bigger on this, but the size is exactly the same. So anyway, that's kind of it. I really like the 2020 retro, and I'm actually going to be parting ways with these. I've been able to wear them in quite some time, and I don't really feel like fixing them up. I think that this is the better version to keep and go with, and so that's what I'm going to stay with. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the little detailed comparison, since there's not a ton of 2000s out there. And thanks for liking this video and subscribing and keeping it positive.